Reserve. The planning recapitalization rate that the accountants tell us we should use and plan on is a 60-year recap rate in order to maintain modern facilities. In the Air Force Reserve right now, our recap rate is at 213 years. If we were to get well in 30 years, our MILCON budget for this year would be $97 million. Our presidential budget request was 27. That's fact. That's reality. We as an Air Force have decided to take risk in infrastructure and in MILCON, and that is what we've decided to do in order to meet these other priorities. But we all realize at some point you can pay me now or pay me later. So those are facts that we have to deal with as an Air Force Reserve. I'll tell you up front real quick, General Stenner's two priorities within the GRIA are precision and defensive systems. LARCM, large aircraft IR countermeasures for our large aircraft, our C-17s, our C-5s, and precision for our fighter force, primarily targeting pods, Lightning. Those are his two primary requirements. Modernization includes mission. As you know, obviously, the Air Force is expanding into new and different mission set. Charlie's going to talk about irregular warfare, very, very high on the Secretary of Defense, on the nation's go-do list, also on the chiefs and the secretaries. And we will be a large part of irregular warfare. We are looking at where best can we bring reserve capacity to bear in the irregular warfare arena. And it does not necessarily involve flying airplanes. There's a large part of irregular warfare that is supported by and supports the building partnership capacity, the Title 22 mission that we have to go out there and engage with our friends and allies and partners and build their capacity. Aviation, foreign internal defense, Charlie can talk a little bit about that. Air Advisor, the new Air Advisor school that AETC has just been tasked to stand up. We're looking at where can we best plug into that. The other idea, everybody I think is familiar with the Air National Guard State Partnership Program. We are intrigued by the idea that there may be some nations out there that, while not perhaps willing to partner with a state because of their size and their relative importance to us politically and militarily, may still have some requirement and desire to partnership with a federal entity. So we are investigating the potential to look at the opportunity to perhaps have a Air Force Reserve counterpart to the Air National Guard State Partnership Program. This is emerging area. This is building partnership capacity that we've been charged to help with. So this is the lens that we're looking for. Let me talk a little bit about cyber. We have been involved from the very beginning. I was very privileged to be General Bob Elder's mobilization assistant at 8th Air Force and Global Strike Command when he first had the cyber task handed to him a number of years ago. So I was kind of with him from the beginning before he passed it off to Major General Bill Lord, the interim commander right now of af02. We have been involved, Air Force Reserve has been involved from the beginning in looking at what the reserve contribution to the cyber mission could be. And I'll leave you with this thought before we get into the questions and answers, but we think we've found within cyber perhaps a paradigm where the reserve component is actually the predominance of effort, and the regular component, perhaps the full-time support component, is perhaps less of the effort. And let me explain why. In any acquisition or training or whatever, we bring people on and we train them to a set of standards and so forth that have long established, and we train them, we evaluate them and so forth, and we can put out a product and keep them trained and so forth. And our refresh rate on training and new experience and retraining and keeping people up to speed is probably in the, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 year time frame by the time you bring people back and keep them refreshed and up to speed based upon the latest data. How many people have heard of Moore's Law? Okay, Moore's Law tells us that information and the rate of information change doubles every 18 months. Industry has to react to that. The industry has to live and thrive and profit in that environment. We cannot keep, right now, as of yet, we, the Air Force, cannot operate inside of Moore's Law. A thought, as we construct our cyber force, is to leverage our U.S. industry, our cyber industry, by having our reservists employed within all of these cyber-based companies, receive their training, keep them refreshed at a rate that is commensurate or works inside of Moore's Law, and then have them bring that expertise and that education and that experience and so forth to bear within the military cyber organization. You know, the military has supported industry for many, many years, and they've leveraged our brain power and our manpower, our woman power, for many, many years, and it's good for the nation. This may be a way that industry supports the good of the nation in building a partnership with the reserve component to help provide that seasoned, trained, ready cyber warrior. So that's just a real quick, I think, 50,000 or 40,000 foot look at the modernization of the Air Force Reserve in thought, in strategy, in force presentation, in partnership, in organization, and then the obvious equipment and infrastructure. And I think I'll leave it there, and you guys can get to the panel with your specific questions. But before that, I think, do we have time, if anybody has any questions for me before we still got time? So I'll be happy to take any questions anyone might have. Oh, I'm sorry.
Sir, have you all determined what ops tempo and dwell ratio is sustainable with the air reserve? I mean, the operational tempo and the AORs go up. There was, I think there's been some discussion of upping the dwell time or lowering the dwell time.
SecDef's guidance is very clear, and we can sustain, I think, and I think General Stenner believes this too, M&N band 1 to 5 and 1 to 4 is sustainable. It's the new steady state. And I think that's, in everything that we see, that's what I was talking about, that first bullet, that's where that's the metric we're measuring against. Is if we cannot support through volunteerism a 1 to 5 and maintain that through volunteerism, then we are starting to see perhaps the first indication of a threat to our strategic reserve. So we think that's good guidance. We think it's sustainable for the long term. We think that it works, as far as we can tell, everything that we're hearing back from our employers, that as long as that is understood and communicated and planned upon ahead of time, that is sustainable. That is the new steady state. We have a SAN chart that we brief in our staff meetings every week, and it basically goes back to September 11th, 2001, and it looks at mobilization versus volunteerism and the totals and so forth. And we had as many as 18,000, I think, at the height of OIF, mobilized, and a combination of volunteers on top of that. The new steady state right now is right under 6,000. Mobilized combination, and almost all, there's 4,000 of those are volunteers. Roughly 2K is, a little under 2K or right at 2K is mobilized. So maybe a long answer to a short question, but we think it's sustainable, we think it's good guidance, we think it resonates with employers, we think we can communicate it, we think it will sustain the families as long as it's predictable. The problem is getting